All right, so this is the next module. I believe this is module 4. So this is more animation with text, and what we're going to focus on in this is formatting text, alpha mats or masks or track mats, and easy eases. Okay, so first I've got my 3 text layers here. Throw yours up on here and make sure you center the anchor points for each. That's Control-Alt-Home. And what we're going to do first is create some alpha mats. So I want you to deselect all these layers, and we're going to, with these layers deselected, I'm going to put a shape over top of alpha, and I'm going to get rid of the stroke so I can see exactly what it's covering up, okay? And I also want to center the anchor point for this layer as well. So Control-Alt-Home. And what I'm going to do is call this alpha mat, and I'm going to animate it. So how I'm going to animate that is, you're probably wondering the duration of this. So Control K, I'm going to change the duration of this project to 10 seconds. And I'm going to animate this from 1 second to 2 seconds. It's going to move from point A to point B. So point A is going to be here. So it's going to start position animation here. You can press P to activate or isolate position, or you can open this up and expand transform. You can see all the transformations and activate position here. Move the scrubber to 2 seconds. Let's do 1.5 seconds. So 1 second and 15 frames. And I'm going to move while holding shift, click on the shape first, then hold shift, and then move it over top of alpha so the entire thing is covered. And here's an animation that we have. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is change this into an alpha mat. So an alpha mat works only if you have the shape layer that's going to be the mat directly above the layer that it's going to be affecting. So in this case, it's affecting this text layer. So in the layer stack, it is right above it in the layer stack. So I have to change the alpha right here from none. I need to press F6, F5, F4. F4. It has to, let's say, alpha mat alpha. Okay, it has to go directly below it. I got that backwards. So it has to go directly below the layer, and you're going to change it to alpha mat alpha. So what that means is this layer only has color when this layer is over top of it. Okay? So once this animates on top of this layer alpha, it's going to appear. If I were to change it to alpha inverted, whoops. That should have done that. Yeah, that is definitely not what we're looking for here. We're looking for alpha mat. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. So we're changing that layer to alpha mat. And I said before that it has to go directly above. I was wrong. It has to go directly below. Okay, I'm a little rusty. It's been a year since I went over this, and I thought I was on board here. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing to Moto. I'm going to deselect everything. I'm going to create a shape that covers the entire word. I'm going to name this Moto Mat. I'm going to drag it underneath Moto, and now I'm going to animate it. So from 1 second to one, you know what? I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to actually animate the text layer. So I'm going to click Moto, and I'm going to animate it from 1 second to 1.5 seconds, 1 second and 15 frames. I'm going to animate the position. So at 1 second and 15 frames, I want this word to be right here. So I'm going to set the position keyframe right here. I'm going to go back to 1 second, and I'm going to move it off screen. Okay, now I need to change the Moto mat to alpha mat so it disappears. Now when I play the animation, it pops up on screen. But I'm going to reverse that so it's more obvious. I'm going to move it from up and going down instead of left to right because that's not as obvious. So I'm going to activate the last keyframe I did here. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to move this guy up. All right, and I'm going to do something similar with this guy. I'm going to create another shape that covers up hello in its entirety, centering the anchor point, Control-Alt-Home. And I'm going to change this to hello, Matt. And I'm just going to do the same basic thing. I'm going to move this thing. Let's change the scale. So we'll change the scale of this alpha mat. So I'm going to press S to activate the scale. I want it to be 100% scale at 1 second and 15 frames. So I'm going to activate that. I'm going to go back to 1 second and I'm going to change the scale to 0. Okay, and now I need to change the alpha mat to alpha mat hello. So if this section isn't showing up here, you press F4. F4 toggles this on and off. Definitely need the track mat options here to show. And as you notice, all my text is turning white. That's because the layers that I'm using are white. So if I go to no track mat here, I go to this section, I activate the shape tool again, and I change the text, or I change the color of this. Now that text is going to be whatever color the mask is that I made. Okay. All right, we're going to let's save this. We're going to do a little review from module 2. I'm going to select all these layers. So you can select the top layer, hold shift, select the bottom layer, press Control Shift C, pre-compose, and we're going to name this Hello Moto. Excuse me. And we're going to trim it off at 3 seconds. So Control Shift D splits this in half, and we're going to delete the end of it so it disappears. So this is on the screen. We'll press play. At 3 seconds, it disappears. Okay, pretty basic. And now what we're going to do is bring in a shape. No, let's do another word. So I'm just going to type in one word that says hello moto. 2 words. I'm going to use the move tool, select the text. I need to center the anchor point, and I'm going to center the text as well. So I'm going to press Control-Alt-Home to center the anchor point, and I'm going to press Control-Home to center the text to the screen. And right here, I'm just going to drag this layer so I don't have text over top of my last animation. So it's going to start where the other animation let off. So it pops up here. All right, and now what I'm going to do is use a effects and presets text option. So I'm going to scroll through here. I'm going to go to text. I'm going to, actually, that's not it. I want to go to, where is, animation presets. Go to text. And let's do Animate In. I'm going to open up Animate In, and let's go ahead and drag drop in by character on here. And now we'll see how these animate. So if we move this layer, this section right here, up off the screen, it will look like the text is popping in. And now I'm going to show you how to control that stuff. So we have effects controls. If they're not showing up here, you can toggle back and forth between your project assets and your effects control right here. If that's not showing up, you can click window like I just did, and it's right here. There's no shortcut key for it. And I select the layer. It doesn't look like it's giving me any options there, which is nice. So I'm going to open up transform. There's nothing there. Open up text. Open up animator 1. And nothing is showing here. That's great. Okay, usually it will show you these options up here, but I don't know why this is not, which is fine because we can still control it down here. Okay. All right, so basically it gives you the options of where this starts and stops. So, which are these 2 keyframes here. So I can drag this out, I can make it last a lot longer, I can make it go a lot quicker. So now it's going to happen in the space of between these 2 keyframes here. Pretty easy. let's go ahead and add another layer. So I'm going to close that up. I'm going to deselect everything. I'm going to select this. I'm going to type in some more text. And now what I want you to do for this next part is I want you to have 4 text layers. Right now I have 1, 2, add 2 more here, and then I want you to put a animation preset text and just experiment and put 3 more options on your 3 remaining layers here. Okay, that's the rest of this module, and then I'm going to show you how to do a keyframe. So what you're going to do, let's pretend we're going to move to the section where you've animated everything. Okay, so that's going to happen between 3 seconds and 6 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to drag all of my text layers to exist between 3 seconds and 6 seconds. Okay, now I'm going to start the next section. I'm simply going to create a shape. Actually, let's stick with text. All right, I'm going to center the anchor point, and I'm going to move this object from here to here. And I'm going to show you how to use a ease keyframe. So I'm going to drag this scrubber, or this length of this layer right here, to start at 6 seconds. I'm going to activate position, which is P. I'm going to drag the scrubber to 7 seconds. I'm going to move this section to over here, and let's see what happens when I press play. So you see it's very linear. I'm going to drag 6 seconds and a half here. I'm going to drag this keyframe to 6.5 seconds. It's very linear, meaning it goes at one constant speed from point A to point B. When you're in your car, you start, you ease up into a speed, you come to a stoplight or a stop sign, and you ease into a stop. You don't slam your brakes on going from 60 miles an hour to 0, and then when the light turns green, you go from 0 to 60 in a split second. That doesn't happen. So it's very unnatural for things to move like that. So that's why this animation looks very stiff. It's going from point A to point B in a very linear speed, so we want to change that. We do that by right-clicking on a keyframe, and we can go to Keyframe Assistant, and we can ease in, we can ease out, or we can use easy out. So I do easy ease, which is F9, so I just click on a keyframe and press F9. That means before it gets to this position, it's going to slow into it. As you see there, it just did. It's kind of hard to tell until you do it yourself, but it's easing in. It's not going at a constant speed. It's slowing down a little bit. Okay, so that's easy in, ease in. There were some track mats, and we did some effects and presets. So I'm going to stop there, save this as module 4, and we're getting closer to having a project.